Hello everyone, it's Sapphire. Hey, how you doing? Hope you guys are having a good evening or good morning, good afternoon, whichever time it happens to be when you're tuning in. And thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a great day. Um, so I'll just preface this by saying I'm not looking for a fight or an argument with this video. It comes from a place of just wanting to vent my thoughts and my feelings about the 2024 US election and what has transpired since then. Um, my struggle to just accept this new reality and my thoughts about moving forward into a challenging future. My goal here is to be civil and respectful, but realistic, and yet also try to be positive as much as possible. With that said, please just don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell, and even donate if this resonates with you and if you like the overall message. And feel free to check out more of my content. Obviously, I'm not just a political YouTuber. I'm more so in the self-help, self-care, self-love space and the philosophy and spirituality space. But I do take some time here and there to do deep dives on different political topics, especially if something big has happened, or if there's just good, positive, genuinely good, positive news too. I like incorporating that when and where I can when that comes to my attention. So, with that said, let's proceed. First, here we go. It's over. The felon has been certified to become the next president of the United States. But is it really over? Is there more to come that could change everything? Is this the end or just the beginning of this story? It may seem too little too late at this point, given that the certification has come to pass, but there are still many alarming, open, and unanswered questions around the legitimacy of the election results, as I alluded to in my previous video on this subject. Let's start by taking a little trip down memory lane to June 17th of last year when this Forbes article dropped. Elon Musk attacks electronic voting machines as he wades into sensitive Indian debate, claiming anything can be hacked. Could Musk have been indirectly giving up his plan for the US's 2024 elections ahead of time and in plain sight with nobody really taking notice? Then you add in Musk's contacts with Russia and Putin, and things appear to start to fall into place. Democratic senators, in fact, called for a probe into Musk's Russia calls on November 15th of last year, though I'm not sure what ultimately came of this probe, or it may have been shut down by Republican colleagues. I don't know if you guys may have more information on that. Didn't anyone else think it was also super weird that Trump said, "We don't need the votes. I have so many votes." And get out the vote just this time. He went on, "You don't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians." 4 more years? You know what? What's he talking about? I'm just asking questions, and I'm just a lowly, concerned citizen, and not someone with high level government intel or anything. So I don't have explicit red-handed evidence or proof of shenanigans. But it is my belief that not only was there verifiable election interference from Musk via X um, and Russian bomb threats, etc., but also that this election was hacked, not won. And isn't it also strange that only registered Democrats didn't receive requested mail in ballots in red states? Only Harris supporters' mail in ballot signatures didn't match and were rejected in swing states. That days before the election, more than 1 million registered Democrats were purged from the Texas voter rolls. Not a swing state, but it still matters. Um, that Russian operatives only called in dozens of bomb threats to left leaning voting locations, as I had mentioned. Drop boxes only burned in blue and minority districts. That Democrats had record turnout and record voter registration, and roughly 15 million less Democrats voted than they did during the pandemic, if you track the growing population as well. There's a gap there of roughly 15 million. That it only took 4 hours to determine if Trump won. 4 hours. No waiting or hesitating there. That after Trump's 63 court cases and dozens of hand recounts contesting the results of the 2020 election, with all of the irregularities such as those cited by noted data scientist Stephen Spoonamore, that no one in a position of power has seriously contested the results of the 2024 elections, in spite of those election irregularities, like data scientist Stephen Spoonamore noted. However, I will now shift my focus to moving on and accepting unacceptance, because it's becoming increasingly clear that likely nothing will be done about all the irregularities, interference, and even fraud in the 2024 election, and also because I wish to take care of my mental health. The reality of another Trump term is something that has come to pass and may not change, and that is something I have no control over. And to resist that, it appears to be the coming reality is certainly not going to do my mental health any favors. I do, however, have control over my own life, my mind, how I choose to spend my time, and how I choose to proceed forward in this new, uncertain, and challenging future. And that's just the thing. I have been wrestling back and forth with the acceptance of this reality, oscillating between pure surrender and acceptance on one hand, oscillating between pure surrender and acceptance on the one hand, and on the other end, denying that this is the reality, thinking that this can't be happening again, and thinking something will surely change. Somebody in a position of power will surely do something. Something will surely happen that prevents Trump from actually taking office. I've actually been wrestling with this since even before the election. A few days before the election, I prayed for Kamala to win. And I shortly after saw a vision of her being inaugurated. But I told myself that I surrender to whatever the universe will bring, and whoever is ultimately the winner of this. But then she apparently lost, and I took a gut punch. Shortly afterwards, during the full moon, I sent my love and energy to Kamala and Biden, and I prayed that the truth will be revealed and brought into the light, that the rightful winner will be known and action will be taken to ensure that the rightful winner takes office. For some reason, I had a feeling that this truth would be revealed and brought to the light in the coming week after that. But then it never happened. I then began alternating between the two extremes I mentioned before, or sitting somewhere in between, and continually felt myself questioning my faith. Now I know that I don't want it to be so, but I also know that the truth. But I also know the truth that it is especially now exceedingly unlikely that Trump retaking the office in merely several days will change or be prevented. Instead, I know I must accept what I can neither change nor control. But I still claim my power to change what is actually within the limits of my control, what I actually have the capability to change that I cannot accept. Even so, I've been trying to hold on to hope that the truth will be revealed, that Trump will be prevented from taking office, and maybe, just maybe, Kamala will be the one to be inaugurated instead. Some people, including many intuitives, have been saying something big is coming that will prevent Trump from taking office. And I was holding on to hope too. And I still do hope. And universe, I pray that some miracle will come through that changes everything. But that is seemingly harder to see and more unlikely as days go by, especially since the certification. And on that note, with my ongoing acceptance effort, I went into a mini mental health episode for roughly a few days or so after the certification, going through disappointment, frustration, and depression. I've since mostly been staying away from news and social media for the most part, except for a couple of days prior to and around the certification, and also briefly when I became aware of the Southern California wildfires that are going on. I actually used to live in Southern California, but not particularly close to where these fires took place. And as far as I know, thankfully nobody I know well or am close with was directly affected by them. I am well aware of the horror and threat of fires since I live in California, and I voluntarily evacuated in face of the Walbridge fire back in 2020. But thousands of people have not only lost their houses, they've lost everything. And dozens of people and firefighters have lost their lives. It's so very sad and devastating. On the other hand, it is very comforting and heartwarming to see so many coming together and supporting the victims of these fires in the wake of the devastation in so many beautiful different ways. I myself did what I could, and I made a small donation to a fire relief fund. That being said, please join me for a brief prayer for the victims of these fires in the wake of the devastation, um, the victims of these horrific, tragic, and devastating fires. Please join me for a brief prayer. I ask the universe, and I ask any and all beings to aid, comfort, and keep safe all the people and animals threatened by the Southern California fires, and assist them in rebuilding their lives however they choose to move forward and wherever they choose to move to. And keep the firefighters safe. Universe, we pray, please bring love, light, safety, support, comfort, peace, community, healing, and rebuilding into the lives of the victims, of all the victims and all the people and animals affected by these fires. And please surround all the firefighters with safety, strength, love, comfort, and support. Universe, we pray the winds will calm down, conditions will become cooler and wetter, and a light, gentle rain will come. Back to the topic of me mostly staying away from social media lately. I will ultimately be leaving X and Facebook, Threads, and Instagram within a few weeks for my mental health, political, and safety reasons. But I will still be here and on Blue Sky, Discord, Kick, and Tribal. On that note, coming to grips with this new reality is a lot like going through the 5 stages of grief for all of us who are very unhappy with the outcome of this election, legitimate or not. For those of you who are not familiar with the 5 stages of grief, they are as follows. Number 1, denial. Number 2, anger. Number 3, bargaining, or when people dwell on what they could have done to prevent the loss. Number 4, depression. And number 5, acceptance. The stages of grief are often discussed as if they happen in order, in a sequence, but it is not always the case. Sadness can hit people at different times. For example, some people may not feel distraught in the first year after a loss, but may become consumed with sadness later. And similarly, as I've hinted at, I don't know about you all, but I have been waffling or oscillating like a wave, washing back and forth through each and every stages of these 5 stages of grief at different times. So what exactly are we grieving? We are grieving not only Kamala not becoming the next president of the United States, we are also grieving the loss of what could have been. We are grieving that it appears we are moving backwards, not forwards, socially, culturally, politically, in terms of humanity, and on the question of economic inequality. We're also grieving the loss of what should have been a better, brighter, stronger future for America and all our people. And with, and all her people, with all brothers and sisters of various colors, creeds, identities, and ethnicities, working hand in hand to create that future, rather than being at each other's throats. And we can plainly see, and we who can plainly see, this new regime's fascistic ambitions are also grieving for what could be the loss of liberal democracy as we know it. Liberal, not in the sense of left, of center in terms of political left versus right in this country, but rather the scholarly political science definition of liberal, aka a democratic form of government that has the following characteristics: elections between or among multiple distinct political parties, a separation of powers into different branches of government, the rule of law in everyday life as a part of an open society, a market economy with private property, universal suffrage, and the equal protection of human rights, and civil liberties, and political freedoms for all citizens. And even if you are fully accepting of the outcome in this new reality and have moved past the grief, you honestly have to admit that there is now a definite brace for impact energy at this time. With all that being said, bear with me, if you will, as we revisit the question of why has this happened. First off, as I stated at the beginning of this talk, I still do believe Harris was the rightful winner of this election. I accept that she may not become the president of, especially at this late stage. I accept that this reality we are almost certainly poised to face unless there is some grand miracle that erupts onto the scene. And if that, meaning her loss and Trump in office, is what will come to pass, so be it. But it is also my read of what took place in November that election interference from Musk and Russia certainly occurred, if not also alleged outright election fraud when it comes to electronic voting machines. It is also a fact that ballots were being burned and destroyed and not counted, according to sporadic yet credible news from that point in time. It is also a fact that bomb threats originating in Russia were sent to Democratic leaning districts. But I don't wish to go any further down the conspiracy rabbit hole. It smells like January 6th insurrectionist feces down there. So let's just assume Trump is in fact the rightful winner, even if he wasn't, way too many people voted for him. How did half of the voting population vote for this guy? I still don't fully get it. Why also did so many choose to sit it out and just not vote, or make a wasted vote to a third party in possibly the most consequential election of our lifetimes? I'm not even going to get into the irredeemable personality qualities, nor criminal or public history baggage, nor his abuse of women, nor the Central Park 5 fiasco, nor his unpaid former employees and contractors. Like, I still genuinely don't get it. Was it the economy? Look, I know it's hard, prices are high, and most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. I'm no different. But I would never in a trillion years vote for that guy. I would never in a trillion years vote for Orangina. Say what you will about the Biden administration, but they spearheaded one of the most dramatic economic recoveries in the world post the COVID crash. Yes, prices are still high, but the rate of inflation is way down from 2021 to 2022. And unemployment is also at a dramatic low. Yes, wages haven't kept up with the prices, but the blame there belongs with 1, your local government, 2, Republicans in Congress preventing anything positive from getting done, including on the question of raising the federal minimum wage. Now it's slated to all get a lot worse for the vast majority of Americans, red or blue. Like it always is with Republican administrations, but would probably be so much worse this time around. Republicans crash the economy, the rich get bailed out and get even richer. The Democrats come in and clean up the mess, and the cycle repeats. It's like the freaking circle of life or something. Now, dozens of top economists warned another Trump presidency would be a disaster. But what do those eggheads know, right? Was it that? Was it just that ignorance and lack of quality education won the day? It seems that way with the skyrocketing in searches after the election of what is a tariff and can I change my vote? Was it the issue of crime? An issue overblown by right-wing media as crime currently is near record lows, but could get a lot worse due to state violence and right-wing militia violence on oppressed and marginalized people. Was it Gaza/Palestine? Well, Trump is expected to give Zionists everything they could ever want wrapped up in a nice bloody red bow painted with the blood of the Palestinian people. I won't sugarcoat it. I know the Biden-Harris administration was terrible on this issue, but it will sadly get a whole lot worse. Was it immigration? Biden and Harris tried to get a bipartisan border bill passed, but it got shut down by Republicans on Donnie's command, so he could have a campaign issue to run on. And unlike what the right-wing media will not tell you, the Biden and Harris administration was tough on immigration, deporting a couple million undocumented people during their term, and Harris prosecuted human trafficking aggressively as a prosecutor in California and was expected to do more of the same as president. Was it just the power of the right-wing media and Russian propaganda media machine and its grip on roughly half of the population? Was it just apathy? Or was it just that they didn't want a half-black woman to be the next president of the United States of America? Things that make you go, and then scream into the void because it's absolutely baffling that it's happening again, but slated to be so much worse this time around. hopefully we'll even have free and fair elections in 2 or even 4 years. And hopefully Americans who have been slumbering in an ignorant stupor will wake up. For now, we'll have to look fear in the face and fight fascism. What does this election result? That flipping guy, what does this election result, that flipping guy winning again, say about America? I could make a whole other video to answer that question, but the short, surface level answer to that is certainly nothing good. But it also sadly seems that the hatred, exploitation, oppression, selfishness, and greed will take you far, both economically and politically in this country. Why did the billionaires, the top 0.1%, prop him up in 2016, and why did they do it again now? The short, easy, surface level answer to that question is that they expect to make more money under a Trump regime. But I believe that there is also a much deeper answer to that question. And you can think of it this way. The ruling class is also divided, just like how the masses are divided politically. Although they have more unity and class consciousness, and they protect their own and their interests much more fiercely and with much more unity than we do. And also with the backing and power of our financial and governmental institutions. Roughly half of the ruling class are not openly bigoted and racist, and may even occasionally come from diverse backgrounds, and they want a subtle bourgeois electoral dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, because they believe that the status quo of liberal democracy has served them well. Now, don't get it twisted. They still look down on us lowly, poor peasants. But they do not despise or condescend us on the basis of race and gender, only on the basis of our socioeconomic standing. The other roughly half of them are openly racist and bigoted and may even be ideologically so. Elon Musk's grandparents, for example, were in fact Nazis, and his parents supported South African apartheid. This other half want a blatant dictatorship of the bourgeoisie because it is a better guarantor of their continued and lasting power and even the expansion of said power, and believe that they stand to make more money and have more control over society and its shape and direction. The latter is about naked power, and the former is about more subtle and hidden, albeit opportunistic power. In this moment, I feel that both sides are coming to realize that although the class consciousness is absent from most of the masses, this sleeping giant has a lot of revolutionary potential that it is sleeping on, especially with the record levels of economic inequality in America. And even more so with recent murder of a CEO by Luigi Mangione. But I'm just talking about what happened before the election and the election result. I think they see this. I think they see all this and it scares them. Ironically, they are in some sense their own worst enemies here, because this record inequality is a self-created problem for them. In this election, they saw the two sides, Kamala versus Trump, like this. One side wants to make peace with and meager concessions to the poor and working class masses and make a dent in economic inequality, but not eliminate it and um, not address it at its roots. With social welfare programs, more taxes on ultra wealthy, and more regulations on the corporations they own. They want to appease the masses, tax some of the wealth of the ultra wealthy, and they will not stamp out any brewing revolutionary potential. But the ultra wealthy still get to make mega millions as they've always done. The other side wants to lord over said masses ruthlessly, eliminate taxes on the ultra wealthy, and eliminate regulations on the corporations they own, thereby enabling them to make even higher record profits and shred social welfare programs and expand economic inequality in the process. This will create a powder keg of increased economic inequality, this um, but this other side is willing to use blatant force and violence to crush any budding revolutionary potential and to use blatant propaganda to keep the masses ignorant and divided. What about radical MAGA right wing militia violence? Well, as long as they don't gain class consciousness and don't have a desire or ability to come after the ultra wealthy, they aren't too worried about them. If anything, they may see them as ignorant but useful and easily controlled tools. In their eyes, it's good business to keep the masses divided and fighting amongst each other. Then they're not fighting the ultra wealthy. Given the two choices, both sides of the billionaire class split may have decided to call a truce and rally around the fascist because they both felt like the current liberal democratic order has outlasted its usefulness, and they stand to make more money and hold on to power more firmly with the fascists in charge. To put it simply, they don't give a darn about us. And those among them who aren't openly racist, sexist, homophobic, and transphobic bigots, A, they still think badly of the poor and unhoused. B, they are willing to trade what's left of their humanity for a dollar or millions of dollars. And C, they are complicit cowards. So, what is the significance of this election outcome? What is the bigger picture? While we were on the cusp of some potentially dramatic positive changes had Kamala won or been allowed to win, it still would not have changed the fact that such a large proportion of the population remains ignorant, fearful, hateful, and divided, while most of us at large also remain extremely economically disadvantaged relative to the top 1%. I'll also add that there was nothing seriously radical or revolutionary about Kamala and her platform. In fact, quite the opposite. She is actually quite centrist on most issues. But at least she gives a dang about human and civil rights of all of the people of America. Maybe we didn't get Kamala because we don't deserve her. Or maybe instead, we didn't get Kamala because we deserve much better, but we have a whole metric ton of shift to work through before we can have better. Aside from the ever present and ever widening gulf of economic inequality that needs to be addressed and remedied, and which neither Kamala nor the Democrats in general would really fix, but would rather provide band-aids to stop some of the bleeding. Aside from that reality, America, and even much of the world, for that matter, has never had a true reckoning on racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and institutional and systemic oppression, racism, patriarchy, and hierarchy. And a recrudescence of all of these problems has taken place. The closest we got to such a reckoning was the civil rights era of the 1960s and the women's liberation movement of the 60s to 70s, and the recent yet quickly being rolled back civil rights and equality victories for LGBTQ plus people. But sadly, these were all half measures. And they certainly never addressed the ignorance, fear, distrust, division, and hatred among far, far too much of the population at large. An ignorant and propagandized population is never a recipe for a healthy society. Moreover, there was little accountability for the MAGA movement and its ringleader, and little pushback from the Democratic leadership or the media against their vile ideologies. And the first time around, when Biden won, other than jail time for some of the January 6th rioters. Unlike post-war Germany, who had a denazification, the US never had a demagafication, if you will. On top of that, desperately needed election and cybersecurity measures were not taken. Greed, selfishness, division, exploitation, oppression, corruption, and hateful ideologies still run our society, and those values were practically enshrined with the re-election of Trump. And we will continue to have these problems until a majority of the people wake up and reckon with them and denounce them in a full-throated manner, and until these values and ideologies are actually rooted out of our society and our institutions. Instead of the better, brighter, stronger, more hopeful future for America, we are stuck dealing with this. All of America's shadow energy has come to the surface and it's now up to all of us, both left and right, to work through, sort out, come together, truly heal, and rise above all this, so that the better future that we want will be possible. Now, these are dark times indeed. For us spiritual types who give a dang about people's lives and rights, it's going to be dang hard to be positive, hopeful, high vibration, love and light at times, or even a great deal of the time. And if you don't consider yourself a spiritual type person, but you give a shift about people's lives and rights, it's also going to be hard to remain positive, hopeful, and motivated much of the time. Our job as light workers and rainbow warriors in this time is to continue to shine bright and be the light that others may desperately need in these darkest of times. We must continue to shine bright and be the lights that others may desperately need in the darkest night. And we have to continue to embody the change that we wish to see in the world. We are needed now more than ever. We must act accordingly and take care of our mental, physical, spiritual health first and foremost, and keep our vibrations as high as reasonably we can do, so that we can give back to the world from a place of love, peace, courage, and strength, rather than giving into the forces of fear, division, hate, and malice. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Take care of your vessel and your environment first. Then you do what you can with what you have to take care of your community, your friends, family, and neighbors. Then do what you can with what you have to improve the lot of the people and beings of your nation and the world. Now, if this recent turn of events is leaving you feeling hopeless, please try to take some inspiration from the following quote from The Lord of the Rings. "I wish it need not have happened in my time," said Frodo. "So do I," said Gandalf. So do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. Be the light in these dark times. It's more important now than ever. If you feel like you're alone and like life isn't worth living anymore, know that you are not alone and that your life is incredibly meaningful and valuable, and we need each other now more than ever. If you happen to be in the LGBTQ plus community, please reach out and use the resources I'll include in the description box. For everyone who may be thinking about unaliving, I'll also be including where to call for help. And also feel free to reach out to me in my comments. Feel free to comment and message me on my social media too. It may take me a minute. I may not always be available. I have my own things that I have to work through too. But with what time I have and what energy I have, I will give you my love and support and guidance in whatever way I can. Now, one thing is certain. Nobody can get comfortable or complacent. It's going to be a very bumpy ride for the next 4 or more years. Buckle up, stay vigilant, and fight back for your own sake, for fellow Americans, and for humanity. It is imperative to stay active and vigilant, but also take a step back and take care of mental health as needed. Refuse and resist. Refuse and resist the incoming fascists. Don't make any of the crap that they have planned easy for them. Be a thorn in their side every step of the way. Refuse to be silent. Refuse to be complicit or complacent and just go along with their crap. Refuse their agenda and their Goebbels propaganda with everything you have, every step of the way. Protest, organize, mobilize, provide mutual aid, love and support. Love and support the most vulnerable among us, because after all, first they came for X, then they came for Y, then they came after me. Know your rights and make sure everyone in your life and circle knows their rights. Register thousands and millions of people to vote. Get out the vote. if free and fair elections even will exist anymore, but we have to try and take back the power. And to the inevitable accusation of so much for the tolerant left, I have the following response to offer. The intolerant left is intolerant. We're intolerant of your hate and your ignorance. We are repelled by these characteristics. That is why we are being intolerant. We don't hate you as people. We hate your ideologies, words, actions, and whom and what you choose to support. We aren't judging you on your race, sex, etc. We are judging you on the content of your character. Finally, remember, fascism is not legitimate. Fascism is always illegitimate, or whether or not a majority of voters voted for it. Hitler was also voted into power by what was at the time a free and fair election. He was not voted out of power. That took a world war. The only thing we can say, unlike the Germans of 90-ish years ago, is that we can't say we didn't know. We must be swift, fierce, and staunch in our resistance and opposition to the consolidation of their fascist agenda every step of the way. They won't stop, so we can't stop. We have to be stronger and louder, stronger together. There are only two ways you can hope to stop fascism once it starts going. One is a sustained, organized, mobilized mass movement of millions, mass movement of many millions. Or the other option, war. I don't say that to scare you. I only say that to be realistic. Love will win in the end, but we have to stand together and be stronger than the forces of hate and division. Keeping Trump out or kicking him out or keeping any other fascist toadies out of power, but principally by means of nonviolent civil resistance, is still and will always be a righteous and worthy cause. On that note, I submit to you a resistance organization built for exactly a time like this, and suggest that we all join it, organize with them, and support them in any way we can. Like I said, principally by means of nonviolent civil resistance. It's a righteous, and will always be a righteous and worthy cause. And this organization is called Refuse Fascism. And their mission statement is as follows. Quote, Refuse Fascism is a movement of people coming from diverse perspectives, united in our recognition that the Trump-Vance regime poses a catastrophic danger to humanity and the planet, and our responsibility is to drive them from power through nonviolent protests that grow every day until our demand is met. This means working and organizing with all our creativity and determination to bring thousands, eventually millions of people into the streets of cities and towns to demand this nightmare must end. The Trump-Vance regime must go. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. Refuse Fascism welcomes individuals and organizations from many different points of view who share a determination to refuse to accept a fascist America, to join and or partner with us in this great cause, end quote. So I'll include a link to them in the description as well. Finally, I wish to end on a somewhat brighter note and leave y'all with this. As cliche and basic be as it sounds, no matter what happens, keep living, keep laughing and loving. At the end of the day, that's all we really have. In the good times and the bad. They can take away our rights. They can take away our livelihoods. You may have to move for your safety. They may even take your life. One thing they can't take is your spirit and your shine unless you let them. Don't let them.